and welcome to Dynamics Unplugged. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about the same things everyone's talking about, AI and Copilot, but more specifically, two real areas. I was trying to do a blog yesterday around prompt generation, and I got stuck and I trashed it. And then over the last 48 hours, there's been this huge explosion across LinkedIn about Microsoft Designer. So if you missed it, let's go ahead and take a look and talk about everything that's happening. About 2 days ago, Microsoft's Copilot Studio marketing lead posted about his testing of Microsoft Designer, easily creating images with generative AI for free, and how Designer has capabilities around image creation, design creation, brand kit generator, which I don't believe is fully available yet, removing backgrounds, blurring backgrounds, and all sorts of fun creativity. Created a little avatar, shared it, and ever since then, I think every third post I've seen on LinkedIn has been somebody sharing their version of their avatar. We've seen this before in other tools and systems where people like to create avatars of themselves, but the thing that is different is this one is using generative AI. And what Jack did that was really cool was he shared the prompt that he used here in this link. So if we look at Jack's prompt, it was a cartoon man with a smile on the front, wearing a black collared shirt, brown eyes, wears black large glasses, short brown classic slicked back hair, holding a Microsoft laptop, text, 3D rendering, typography, illustration, painting, photo, poster, 3D render. We go back and look at the photo. It's pretty spot on, and it's a nice cartoon image that Jack shared. Now, the cool thing was he didn't just include the link to Microsoft Designer. It was the prompt, the specific prompt that he did that got to his image that he shared. And you'll notice that if you have specified something in Image Creator and Designer and you click share, it walks you through that you can create that as a template. And you can really pick out what pieces people can change. This then is what drove the explosion of everyone sharing their images. So I, of course, also had to do this. But you're probably wondering, well, yeah, that makes sense. What is it about prompt generation that makes this important? If we look at Jack's tool, Jack's post rather, he used it to make an image of himself that was fairly accurate for a fun cartoon image. It's not solving business problems, but that's not the important thing. He wanted to show you the possibilities of what you could do in a quick and fun post. And he later even gave updates about him not expecting it to turn into kind of such a viral post, essentially, in the tech community. So one of the things I was doing, as I mentioned, was writing a blog on prompt generation, and I had been viewing Microsoft's fantastic website for adopting Copilot. Within it, there's resources by role, there's what's new updates, exploring Copilot, building prompt skills, Copilot for your team. You can see different solutions. You can see different products that Copilot is presenting in, different resources, different training, et cetera, et cetera. So the piece I really liked was build your prompt skills. In it, Microsoft has two handouts, ingredients of a prompt and prompt do's and don'ts that help you get the best use out of Copilot. And this was really useful when I started to explore Microsoft Designer as well. Any really generative AI tool can apply these concepts to make sure you're getting the best output from it. So let's take a look at those really quick before we get back into Microsoft Designer. First off, Microsoft 365 Copilot prompting do's and don'ts. Be clear and specific. Give specific instructions on the purpose, the tone, the required length. Jack said things about, his hair color and length and what he was wearing and what he was holding. Keeping it conversational, giving feedback to Copilot based on the quality of its responses. If you don't get the output you expected, making that more specific and being conversational with it will give you better output. So in the case of Microsoft Designer, that's really just going back to being more specific. In the case of Copilot within Microsoft 365 products, that might be responding back to Copilot about how that post was not as accurate as you expected. And asking for more specific information. Giving examples when you're talking to generative AI and a Copilot tool will always help you get more relevant context. So if you're trying to build a summary on a specific topic, giving it an example of a previous one might help. Asking for feedback, writing legibly, checking for accuracy, providing details, which gets back to being clear and specific, and finally being polite, using kind and respectful language when chatting with Copilot to help foster collaboration and improve the responsiveness and performance. That goes for image creation as well. If you give instructions to provide anything offensive or unlawful in your imagery, then your Microsoft designer is probably not going to give you as good of a response or might not generate images for you. So on the flip side, the don'ts, don't be vague, don't request inappropriate or unethical content, don't use slang, jargon, or informal language, don't give conflicting instructions, and don't interrupt or change topics abruptly. We'll come back to these when we get to the Copilot side of the demonstration. The art and science of prompting, very similar. Learning about projects and concepts, editing text, transforming documents, summarizing information, creating engaging content, which is what we're talking about in the use case of Microsoft Designer, or catching up on missed items, are all fantastic use cases and types of prompts that can help you get your manual tasks done more efficiently. And you want to make sure that the right ingredients are put into those prompts to get what you're looking for. So in a business context, what response do you want from Copilot? You're going to generate 3 different business objectives to gather information maybe from your email and Teams chats and Microsoft Dynamics 365 websites to create a summary of a fit gap analysis on a business process analysis that you did. But in the case of Microsoft Designer, our goal is really getting perhaps an accurate cartoon avatar that fits our personality and what we want to use to present on social media. Let's get back to the fun stuff for a minute. So Jack had a cartoon man with a smile on the front, described what he wanted. I edited this to look more like me, and I got pretty specific. Probably on the 10th or 20th time, I ended up with this. So giving away my age here, I updated it. I said a wry smile. I threw in my wrinkles and crow's feet. I gave an update on my hair, what I was wearing, a dark hoodie, the eye color, what I was wearing, even my sneaker choice, where I was in my home office, and other things I wanted to show up. And I got a lot of really great prompts. Let's update that even more specifically and see what we get. So I'm going to say dark blue hoodie, unzipped, a red and blue colored shirt underneath. We're going to say coffee and a soft drink. And we're going to say multiple office plants. So now I even have a few more images. This one shows me sitting at a desk. Hopefully I don't look quite that old, but we can see multiple monitors are in there. We see what looks like Air Jordans. We see the red undershirt. See my beautiful crow's feet and my wrinkles as I frowned. See this one, which captures the beard quite accurately. See multiple office plants. So through this, we're proving a couple things. One, we go back to those prompts. We were more specific. We weren't vague. We didn't request any inappropriate or unethical content. There's nothing in there that's profane, there's no nudity or improper language or drugs or alcohol. We didn't use slang jargon or informal language that it wouldn't understand. We wrote legibly. If there was anything I wanted in terms of including my name, I should put that in capitalization, for example, as a proper noun. Now, when it comes to Copilot and solving business problems, let's take a look how that can be used. We'll click on our Copilot icon. We have the chat if we want to do research or ask questions or prepare for something. We have Insights, which is great for reviewing content. For example, this is insight into the adoption.microsoft.com file where it's summarizing key points about providing specific instructions, giving feedback, using clear and specific words. I can see more, and it actually basically rewrites the do's and don'ts into different language as a summary. We can see ratings that have been provided by anybody who's used Copilot to rate this site. And we can see rankings of people that are visiting. So that's now all accessible to me. Maybe I want to use this to now train my business analysts and my functional consultants on how to do discovery and research. So perhaps the art of prompting do's and don'ts is something I want to express in an email. And as someone who loves comedy and keeping it lighthearted, I'm going to say I want this to be funny. So I am going to say an email essentially on the art of prompting and asking the right questions in a business process discovery assessment. And I'll say, yeah, email, we'll make it medium length, and I'll click generate draft. All right, so now it's generated a draft and says, hi there, I hope this email finds you well and not too bored by the endless meetings and reports. I'm writing to share some tips on how to conduct a successful business process discovery assessment, or BPD for short. BPD is a fancy way of saying, let's figure out what you do and how you do it so we can make it better. I'm guessing that's part of the funny tone we have. The key to a good BPD is asking the right questions. You don't want to ask questions that are too vague, too specific, too obvious, or too irrelevant. You want to ask questions that are open-ended, relevant, insightful, and engaging. Here are examples of good and bad questions. Bad. What's your role in the company? Good. How do you contribute to the company's goals and vision? Bad. How many invoices do you process per day? Good. What are the main challenges or bottlenecks in processing invoices? Bad. Do you like your job? Good. What are some aspects of your job that you enjoy or find rewarding? Bad. How do you communicate with your team members? Good. How do you collaborate with your team members to solve problems or improve processes? Asking the right questions will help you understand the current state of the business processes, identify the pain points and opportunities for improvement, and establish rapport and trust with the stakeholders. It will also make the BPD more fun and less tedious for everyone involved. Okay, so Copilot has generated that example of an email for me based on the minimal prompt I gave it. If I'm focusing on something like a manufacturing business process assessment and key people, I might want to be more clear and specific, not be as vague. So let's say manufacturing. This should probably be more professional since this is a business context. So let's change the tone and let's actually make it a little bit shorter. Let's generate the draft again. Dear colleagues, I'm writing to share some tips on the art of prompting and asking the right questions in a manufacturing business process discovery assessment. This is a crucial skill for any consultant who wants to understand the client's needs, challenges, and opportunities. Here are some guidelines to follow. Start with open-ended questions that allow the client to describe their current situation, goals, and pain points. For example, what are the main objectives of your manufacturing process? Or what are the biggest challenges you face in your production cycle? Following up, probing questions that dig deeper into the details, causes, and effects of the issues raised by the client. For example, how do you measure the quality of your products? Or how often do you experience delays or errors in your orders? Use clarifying questions to confirm your understanding and avoid misunderstandings. For example, so are you saying that you want to reduce your inventory cost by 20%? Or can you give me an example of how you handle customer complaints? Avoid leading questions that suggest a specific answer or solution. For example, don't you think that implementing a new software system would improve your efficiency? Or isn't it obvious that you need to hire more staff? Respectful, courteous, and attentive. Listen actively to the client's responses and show interest and appreciation. For example, that's very interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Or thank you for sharing that information. It's very helpful. I hope these tips will help you conduct effective and engaging business process discovery assessments. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, your name. Okay, so that's a lot, right? But the the big thing I noticed, a lot more professional, very, very specific now with the manufacturing piece in mind and giving good examples. I'm not sure if it was quite shorter, so we could ask it to return a shorter email if we prefer. We could follow up with some of the automatically generated prompts, like more examples or preparing for an assessment. And perhaps we want to turn our advice that we had for our consultants into a company blog post. We could do that as well and regenerate this draft. Great. So now I also have the draft of a blog post, and I can take that and edit it to how I want to present that for my business. And you can see the words here. I'm not going to read it word for word like I did with all the emails, but a pretty great first pass response with just kind of minimal editing to my prompts, following some general guidelines from Copilot. And what prompted all this is people wanting to generate cartoon images of themselves and post them on LinkedIn. Thanks, everybody.